Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast, well, about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. We had very high hopes this year that this would be the year. This would finally be the year when we began and ended our March Madness shows during the month of March. However, due to a case of terminal idiocy, on our parts and Mother Nature deciding to pimp slap the Northeast with an ice storm and now a nor'easter, that hasn't worked out quite as we planned. However, as so many procrastinators have said throughout history, better late than never, we're back to finish off our Star Wars character brackets in this episode 158. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is the man who is one dose of Rogaine away from becoming a real-life Wookiee, as he has been my partner in Idiocy for over 2 decades and is much taller than he looks on camera. I give you the man they call Tim.
Ooh, yeah. Cream of the crop.
I noticed you didn't do the profile.
I did not.
Still stinging from that dad bod throwing?
No, I'm not stinging at all. I just happened to just put away a Cobb salad and a side of onion rings. So I'm probably a little more rotund than, last time. So I just wanted to,
Feeling a little bloated.
Oh, yes. Boy, got it nose.
The lifesavers of the Friolator will do that. We are one man shy in this mission here tonight. Once again, we had been trying to get together with Jimmy Dice from Scruffy Looking Podcasters. And the previous time that were scheduled to do this show, I lost power, Jimmy Dice lost power. And then I got power back, Jimmy Dice did not get power back. He got power back, but then he didn't have internet. So at least he was warm. Well, today, he lost power this morning. And then got it back. And then he lost power approximately 15 minutes before we were supposed to record. At which point I just threw up my hands. I'm like, Mama Nature is real mad at you for something. I don't know what it is.
Bad juju there. Bad juju.
But this is a cursed mission. So unfortunately, Jimmy Dice will not be joining us for this show. Maybe we'll dig up his bracket. I don't know if he actually completed it or not.
I don't think he did.
Okay, yeah, he had a couple of words to say about your ordering of things. I assured him that it was randomized, and he said, yes, and the Empire only craves peace and justice.
Oh,
that was how he phrased it.
I didn't order anything like purposefully. It was how it shook out.
Listen, I'm just here to deliver a message.
All right, little snug.
Little snug.
All right.
Are you getting a lot of like noise on my mic? Are you hearing anything?
It sounds like there's more echo than I'm used to hearing. Yes.
That was weird.
What? I didn't hear that. So.
Okay. Well, there might have to be a microphone change somewhere.
Uh-oh. First ever. 158 episodes in, we finally have the first mic change. It's kind of like a NASCAR, tire
live
rotation.
on air. Yeah.
Here we go.
Great. But does it really sound bad?
It doesn't sound bad. It just sounds more echoey than normal. Like
more echoey. I'm not hearing an echo at all, so that's great. All right. Anyways,
and I don't mean echo like you say something and it like repeats itself. It's just the acoustics of the room. You know what I mean? Like it just sounds like sound is bouncing more so than normal.
Okay.
Unless I just haven't noticed it before, and now I'm picking up on it because I'm
maybe
one Cobb salad and onion ring side in. So
the Cobb salad affected your hearing. Really?
Well, I might be hallucinating. Could have been some bad blue cheese. Who knows? But
not like the good blue cheese. It's like legit gone bad blue cheese.
How bad does
cheese.
bad blue cheese need to be when it already is a fungus of sorts?
It basically just gets worse. It doesn't go bad. It just gets worse.
Or a mold or something like that.
Yeah. I think it already is moldy. I think that's the gimmick. That's the blue. But anyways, if this thing starts to get worse from your end, just let me know and
I think we can.
I will somehow
Sully forth, sir. Sully forth.
Okay. Well, anyways, we are going to proceed here into the main subject at hand in a moment. But now we are going to have a proper Week in Geek. I really threw a monkey wrench into the man they call Tim's life. The mini episode we just did by not having a proper Week in Geek or a proper outro.
Yep.
His world has been in shambles ever since we recorded a couple nights ago.
I was throwing, I had papers I was throwing about. Oh, don't go.
Yes, he's taken to drink and has been. Well, actually, no, that's just a normal day.
That's standard operating procedure. What are you talking about?
He's now taken to pouring tequila over his Cheerios in the morning. Oh my gosh! But anyways, let's get into the Week in Geek. What do we got this week, sir? Actually, no. Wait a minute. We have to have a little bit of music here, don't we?
I was gonna say, what's going on here, my friend? We got to get the pyro going.
Feels so funky.
Macho Man. All right. Well, we have a very Star Wars centric Week in Geek here. I actually do we want to get into the health update first, or do we want to do that later?
Oh, sure, let's do that, because right before we start the show,
Yes.
Tim sends me a text and says, "Oh, we have a health update." And I was like, "Oh, that doesn't sound ominous or anything right before the show, and you're not sharing it with me." So yes, please. What's going on?
So, as you know, listeners who have been with us for a long time may or may not know about, I had a bout of atrial fibrillation over the last several years, culminating last year with apparently a daily dose or 4, depending on the day, basically all last summer. I had an ablation procedure. Haven't had an episode since December 18th.
Now, just a quick background, because I didn't know what an ablation was when you first told me. So if you could just give a brief description of what that actually is.
So, quick summary is AFib is when your heart has pockets or areas on it that are where the electricity is misfiring and causing your rhythm to accelerate up when it shouldn't. So I was going up to like 140 BPM and I'm just like sitting down doing nothing. You know what I mean? It was just very strange. And so what an ablation is they go in and through the use of both cold and hot, through cauterization and through freezing, essentially, they damage those. They basically do some tests to understand where those misfiring nodes on your heart are happening. And then they go in and they essentially damage them. And then what happens is over a course of about 3 months, the heart, like any other organ or, as our skin does, it will basically scar and basically repair itself. But that scar tissue that forms over those nodes is essentially what's blocking them from doing any further firing. And so right around the 3-month mark for me is when I was still having some minor episodes, but then they eventually went away. And so I haven't had any episodes since. So I went and saw my electrophysiologist today. And I am not reporting on any restarts of episodes or any reboots of episodes. Things are still very good. But a couple medications that I was taking to regulate and to help with managing these rhythmic offshoots, he is now taking me off of them. So I am now shedding. One at a time. I'm starting with it's 2 meds, but starting with one, I got to measure my blood pressure, make sure nothing goes off kilter, and then in about 3 weeks, go off the other one, and then just see how I'm doing. I have a 6-month follow up with him, and then we go from there. But overall, I am firing on all cylinders, baby. I'm looking forward to it. Warm. I know it's going to sound silly to Uncle Todd just having the experience of nor'easter today, but I, for one, am looking forward to some warm weather. I can get back out on the bike trails with my bike. I had to curtail my riding because even doing that was causing me to enter into some episodes. I wouldn't come down from my workout heart rate. It would just kind of stay elevated. So just wanted to share that the man they call Tim is shedding some meds, ladies and gentlemen.
Which is good news. It's
but holding on to others.
Yeah. It's good news. In fact, it's almost...
thank you, sir.
You deserve it.
Have a drink here. Glorious. Absolutely. Fireworks going. Come on. There it is. There it is.
Now, I think the funny part of this is that, hang on a second, this film.
Oh yeah, let it go.
Come on.
I will defend.
It just keeps, just when you think it's slapping as hard as it can, it goes harder.
It builds. It just keeps going. It keeps building, baby. It keeps building.
All right. So one thing I'd never really thought about, there's very much a Queen sort of like Flash Gordon era vibe about that song, which I think is why I love it so much.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because the intro to Flash Gordon is like one of the best things ever. It's like so cheesy yet incredibly cool and like gives you the tingles. Or maybe that's just me. But I think it's funny how you're saying you're hanging on to some medications, and you of course had to bring up the last time that we were in proximity in Denver, and how I was present for one of these episodes, and of course he's not. See, Tim is a very nice guy, and he's trying to not blame me, but is sort of trying to blame me for one of his episodes.
I brought it up because when we got back to our Airbnb, you just had this look on your face, or this I mean, you were legitimately concerned for me because you're
because it was going to happen on my watch.
Well,
like,
that's the other
thing
part.
that I found intolerable, and the fact was that you did it to yourself. Like you didn't take care of yourself.
Mrs. the man they called Tim was going to layeth the smacketh down.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Now the thing is, like I joke with my wife, I'm like, we've been together 20 years now. I'm not scared of you. Like if you want to take me out, you know where I'm at. I have no idea what Tim's wife is going to do to me. I'm scared of the unknown. I have no idea. But yeah, so he's at the point of asking me, like, did we have 5 or 6 at the whiskey bar? And I'm like, well, and I'm trying to remember.
That was a busy night.
And that was, so what I came up with is, I'm pretty sure you had 5, I had 6.
Yeah.
Those first 5, I believe one was under 100 proof.
Yes.
And all of the rest, I believe, were like 105 to like 125.
I thought we had one that was like 125 or close to 130.
Oh yeah, it was at least one. I think there might have been 2.
And that's what launched my heart into the stratosphere. So yeah.
And the 6th one for me was someone there bought like a round of Jack Daniels for people, which I then equated as basically a breath mint.
Yes.
At the end of the night, just to kind of put a little button on things. It didn't really affect me at all because I was already like straight ahead.
Yep.
Of course, then going out to the sidewalk and hearing, my heart rate is about 300 BPM, and I'm having an incident.
Like. It's not like
you won't even believe how quickly you sober up at that point. Like, you're having a heart condition right now. Great.
It's not like when I have these episodes, there's anything anyone can see or experience or know. It's not like the super fan sketch where Chris Farley is pounding on his chest or something like that. It's nothing like that.
That's a baker's dozen.
It's very subtle, and but. If not for the Fitbit right here, I wouldn't have been any the wiser, other than just feeling a little fluttering in my chest. So, but anyways,
which you've been like, my heart wants more bourbon.
Well, that
please
could have been.
Give it more.
That could.
More good. No,
my heart knows.
We're just tying in all the pre-show stuff. Let's get into the more that we can geek and on our blabbering. What do we got, sir?
So this was a Star Wars centric one for obvious reasons, as we're wrapping up our final 4. And around the time we were going to originally record, there was a bunch of information that came out about May the 4th. I think during that week there was also I'd seen on Instagram some reels where I think they had a day where they basically projected some Star Wars scenes onto the Empire State Building, or I don't know how they did that. It was very cool. Hayden Christensen was there.
It's the same mapping technology they use at Magic Kingdom when they're doing like the end of the night show, and they project stuff onto not only like the castle, but they'll do it on like the buildings on Main Street, USA. It is amazing.
Yeah.
What they can do and do it like over and over and over again every single day. It's remarkable.
And I just want to note today is April the 4th, so we are 1 month and counting to May the 4th. And again, it's unfortunate we couldn't have Jimmy Dice on because I wanted to ask him about, there's a restaurant he goes to. I forget the name of it. He talks about it on the show that does a May the 4th themed dinner. And I believe they play a movie as well, which I believe he said he thinks it's going to be episode 1 because it's the 25th anniversary of it, which Uncle Todd is, just ready to celebrate, 10 times over.
It's just not Todd. I have PTSD.
All because of a trade dispute.
Gosh. Boy, nothing says space opera like trade dispute, tariffs, and
deposing chancellors and others taking their place. But basically this comes from Collider.com, carrying forth some of the news that came from a couple of weeks back around March 21st. A Skywalker Saga Marathon is coming to theaters for Star Wars Day. So apparently in select theaters, we will have basically a marathon starting with Star Wars Episode 1 and running all the way through to Star Wars Episode 9. I don't believe there's a listing in this article of theaters or anything like that, but it sounded like tickets are scheduled to go on sale March 22nd. For those who attend the screenings, they'll get an exclusive look at one of the highly anticipated news stories from the galaxy far, far away. So I don't know if that's going to be something related to the Acolyte or what's the other one with Jude Law that's coming out? The Skeleton Crew. I don't know if it's going to be something on that. But yeah, it is going to be a full run marathon 1 through 9. So how many hours of viewing is that? So 9 movies.
Far too many.
I mean it's going to be over a day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, movies.
They did this with the Marvel movies at one point, and it was like back when you could still manage that. And it's insane.
I mean, the movies are about 2 hours, right? I mean, hour and a half, 2 hours, or maybe 2.5. I don't know.
I mean, you're looking at the better part of a day. Yeah. I mean, because even if they're all 2 hours and under, you're still dealing with 20-ish hours.
Yeah. And you got to figure there's time in between each movie for people to cycle, out and use the restrooms and load up that tub of popcorn again. You know what I mean?
Can you even imagine? I mean, because let's just folks, we've known each other long enough here. Okay, let's be real talk. All right, real talk. Some of the folks going to this don't smell that great to start out with on a daily basis. Can you imagine being in a theater next to someone for 20 hours, eating nothing but buttered popcorn and sugar water?
Yeah.
the
dry heaves are starting for Uncle Todd.
The things coming out of people's pores is going to be so raunch.
They're going to be sweating butter.
Yes, and not even real butter, like whatever that combination of like castrol and vegetable oil and fake butter flavor it is that they pour over your popcorn when you go to the movies. Oh, it's going to be it's either going to be amazing or it'll be the most terrible thing next to being in like a prison camp somewhere.
I have to wonder.
It'll be a Star Wars gulag. That's what it's going to be.
I have to wonder if these theaters are going to pay like an extra bonus to the theater workers that day because, man, when they go into the theater to clean that after 9 movies, I mean, go in with a hazmat suit for crying out loud.
Just go to like those fogger backpacks that they use to spray for mosquitoes.
Call it the Ghostbusters. Jeez.
It's just Lysol. Now, here's the thing. You really want to have some fun with this.
Yes.
You know what you do? Because we do live in this world. We live in a subscription and an upsell world. Yes. We live in a microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you do.
Oh boy.
You lock the doors.
Okay.
$5 if you need to get out. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to have a tinkle? Well, you should have saved that popcorn bucket now, shouldn't you? It would turn in, and then you put the camera, you put it on, like, you stream this online and just watch the Lord of the Flies effect take over.
I don't see a price for these tickets, but to your point, if they charge like next to nothing to get in, but then they charge you to get out,
it's the old Jersey Turnpike way, where it's like you can, it's free to get in Jersey, but you got to pay to get out.
Yep, and you will pay. You will pay the ultimate price. So so for those looking for a little something to do on May the 4th, we are going to have, and I believe that's on a weekend. I think it's a Saturday, because I remember remarking to either Uncle Todd or a coworker this week. I was looking at the calendar, and Cinco de Mayo is on a Sunday, so that's going to be a rough Monday for people.
Can you imagine? Because we know this. We know, we are idiots, so we know there's idiots in the general population. As George Carlin famously once said, think of how dumb the average person is, and then realize that 50% of them are even dumber than that. But think of this. There is someone out there who is going to get swindled, hornswoggled, shanghaied, if you will, press ganged into seeing this as a date.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yep.
And someone out there is going to be unlucky enough that this is their first date.
Yep.
Oh
yeah.
The therapy bills after that. Hoo boy.
One thing to point out, this is going to be the main movies only. We're not going to have Solo or Rogue One as part of this.
See, now here's what they should do. Yes. Here's what you really ought to do.
Oh, what do you want to do now, Uncle Todd?
You do a modified
DDT?
Machete order, where you do, so the Machete order was you do episodes 4 and 5, 2, 3, then 6, and then you can go 7, 8, 9. So the idea was that you basically have 2 and 3 as flashbacks, and then eliminate episode 1 altogether, because there is literally nothing in it that isn't covered in another movie. So if you took that and you kind of tweaked it around, the only thing is I would want the completionist satisfaction of going from episode 3 to Rogue One to immediately into episode 4. I would want that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
So I would say start at just forget that episode 1 ever happened, just like I do, and start right at episode 2.
Uncle Todd's mission in life.
Intermission, episode 3, intermission, and then you make an announcement like, we are going to roll right from episode 4, or right from Rogue One into episode 4.
All right.
Boom. I have no complaints there. And then we just lop off episode 9 and pretend that never happened. And all is right with the world. Huh?
Uncle Todd, agent of chaos.
And you shave off a couple hours.
He has spoken. Yes.
All right. And there's fewer bodily smells to deal with.
I don't know. You're onto something with this whole like reverse steel cage match concept. Lock them in and you got to pay to get out.
Oh gosh.
50 enter, only 1 leaves.
Either that or you time it. Like there's a little light down the corner of the screen, and the doors are going to only be open for like 30 seconds. Let's see who can make it.
You know what you got to do? You got to install like, these instruments that measure, kind of the smell of the room, and you got to like hook up like a Ghostbuster like light outside of the door. It's almost like it's their containment unit, that ends up going, Ari or something like that.
So you have like a black light so you can tell like what's festering. Ugh.
My God, the red light's blinking. We're going to overload. Someone has cut one too many farts in that theater.
Oh, and by the end of this thing, it's going to be nothing but gas.
Yeah.
It'll be like the
fart
gas. It'll be the fart scene in Blazing Saddles for like 3 hours.
I got to comment. It is not often that I get you laughing that hard. It's usually the other way around, and my God, that is hysterical.
Oh, it's going to be foul in those theaters. Like they're going to have to shut that theater down, because that's the other thing. You have to factor in the lost income, because you're going to have to shut this down for like 3 days to really deep clean it. And that's saying something for a theater.
Oh my God. So once again, your
Or worse yet,
subconscious.
imagine walking in the next day after they just closed the doors on that theater, and you have the first showing the next day at like noon. You walk in, it's like just projectile vomiting everywhere.
Did anyone scrub these walls?
Oh, that was the Star Wars theater, wasn't it?
Good God. Oh my
people
gosh.
are bent over like my cat at midnight.
All right, let's move on from that. I think we've milked this one for all the smell, fart, and general bodily,
It's getting very
fluid.
scatological. I was honestly not planning on this.
No, but okay. For the record, ladies and gentlemen, we get on, and Uncle Todd's like, "Oh, this will be a tidy 1 hour episode," and I'm like, okay,
"I did not say 1 hour. You're putting words in my mouth. I said that about the other."
The gauntlet was thrown down, and I said, "Your subconscious will not allow this to happen. It will basically sabotage this entire thing. We're going to go for 250."
If there's anything that I'm good at, it is self-sabotage. I mean, I can admit that. I'm working on that in therapy. Not very well, but I mean, I am working on it. My therapist is doing very well for themselves. They just bought a boat. pretty sure next year they're going to have a cabin in Lake Tahoe.
All right, that is funny. All right, our second article, our last article actually of Week in Geek. I think I paced this out very well, just doing two. Was one that I found from our good friends at ScreenRant.com.
Yes.
From middle of March. Title of it is Ahsoka's New Power is the Key to Unlocking the Origin of the Force Itself.
Now, what is this? Did I miss something, or am I really getting something?
This is why I pulled this article, because I found it very interesting. I myself wasn't even sure what they were referring to when they talk about this new power. But what they are talking about, let me just scroll down to make sure I get the word right. They're calling, and I don't know if this is a term they're coining or if this was a term that was coined by those, in the show. But basically, they are referring to Ahsoka's power. There's there's several points in the series or the first season where she will touch an object and she starts to hear and experience past things that have happened with that object, and they're calling it psychometry is what it is. Psychometry.
Okay.
And so the thought here is, really distilling down, this is a pretty long article, but really distilling it down, they're saying, given this power she has to kind of, touch objects and basically go back in time in many ways experience what this object went through and that sort of thing, that while they are on Perdea, that she may be able to use this power, whether it's with the Mortis God statues, or if there's some other place they journey to, that she may be able to kind of unlock some, secrets or some mysteries about the Mortis gods, or go all the way back to the beginning when the Force actually constituted itself. Like the idea being that she has this ability now to experience things that have interacted with the physical world, which no one else has really done. And what the article gets into is, Baylan, as we've talked about before, Baylan Skoll on Perdea is clearly looking for, or looking to break the cycle of light and dark, and really is, I think, trying to find, the beginning, but he doesn't really understand, or doesn't have the ability yet to get to that level of understanding. But Ahsoka may have the tools to do that, based on her journey to the world between worlds, based on the fact, she was able to pick up, I'm trying to think of the object. They had it in the article. I can't think of it. But in the very first episode of season 1, when she goes to that temple of the Night Sisters and recovers the object that eventually shows, kind of the path to get to Perdea, she touches that. She's able to unlock it. I think when she goes to Sabine's hut or whatever, she lives on Lothal, she touches something there, and you can hear sounds that she's experiencing, and she's kind of reacting to things. And so, the article is just kind of getting to the point of, that maybe this new power she seems to have, can teach her kind of the true origin of the Force. And, maybe if Taika Waititi or if there was someone else who was doing a Star Wars movie, whose name director whose name is escaping me, but there was supposed to be a movie that was going to go back and be like way back, like 10,000 years before like the Skywalker saga sort of thing. If maybe they use her as kind of a storytelling mechanism to kind of launch into that story, but that if there is some sort of secret ancient power that's hidden on Perdea, that maybe her ability here is the only thing that can unlock it. So it's a very interesting idea and thought, and I just thought it would be just want to get your thoughts on it, sir, and if you would be bullish, or enjoy a season 2 that maybe kind of focused on that a little bit, as Baylan tries to uncover the beginning of the cycle.
Well, my first thought is that Ahsoka really ought to make sure she avoids any of those seats that are going to be used during the Star Wars marathon, because God knows
all she's going to do is touch one of those seats and it's going to be one long...
He's not going to want to know the backstory involved there.
Oh my gosh.
Has had a bath in 15 weeks?
All she's going to see are butts sitting in that seat. You're very much on a dry heave kick tonight, sir. Like all roads go back to the Uncle Todd dry heave.
It's kind of yeah. That really, you're right. I think it's interesting, and I think it definitely it would work as a storytelling mechanism.
Yeah.
To kind of explain that, because otherwise, how do you get? To me, it's a very efficient way of getting your exposition through. Because otherwise you're just having to info dump. You meet somebody, or there's a flashback, or not a flashback, because that's kind of what this would be like, but there has to be some way of conveying all that information, and that becomes very wonky and kind of unwieldy when you're trying to just keep a story moving. And of course, we've all seen that in so many different movies where the heroes or characters happen to come across somebody who has this inordinate amount of information that you would not expect. And they just dump it all to the characters. So then it's like, hey, and now audience. Which was one of those things that I haven't seen the movie in ages, but one of the things I kind of look back on and admire about the movie Cloverfield was that never happened. Like you never met that one scientist who's, explains everything in a page long monologue or anything like that. Never happened. You just never really knew anything, which is a very interesting choice. This would be a much more kind of delicate way of doing that and letting Ahsoka kind of figure it out, not necessarily doing flashbacks, but giving her enough information that she can kind of connect the dots a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And I dig that. Yeah, sure. I mean, then have, maybe there is an alliance of convenience between her and Baylan Skoll, and you have that makes things real interesting. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. I was just, as you were talking, I was just hitting up some other details. So yeah, psychometry allows Jedi to learn the history of physical objects just by touching them, oftentimes allow the user to hear and see visions of what the object has experienced. She did this at the Night Sister Temple, like I mentioned in episode 1. She was able to solve the temple's puzzle and retrieve the map just by touching the stone cylinders. In episode 2, she can hear the echoes of Sabine's battle with Shin Hati merely by standing where they fought. However, she's not the first one to show this off, but she is in live action. She's not in the animated sense. So apparently in Clone Wars Season 3, Quinlan Voss first introduced psychometry. I think I'm saying it right, psychometry.
Sounds right to me.
Season 3, episode 9. Unlike Ahsoka, who has only displayed the ability to hear an object's past, Quinlan was so adept at psychometry that he could clearly see visions of beings who had held the object he was touching. And this ability proved invaluable for him as he hunted down Zero the Hutt, and Ahsoka may use it to hunt down Baylan. So it's kind of interesting. And then apparently this skill was also used, or most recently used, in the Star Wars Jedi games by Cal Kestis. And apparently, I didn't realize this. Rey uses it in the Star Wars post-squeals as well. And in Force Awakens, she sees visions from decades prior after touching Luke Skywalker's old lightsaber.
Yes.
So this is not like,
Yeah.
it's not like Ahsoka's doing something brand spanking new that we haven't seen before, but it is, it's a subtle point that I think it was nice the article kind of drew this out, because it could come into play, as as either a tool for tracking Baylan down, or potentially, like you mentioned, maybe they pair up, and when he realizes that she has this ability, that they are able to, as a team, kind of get to the heart of, whether it's the origin story of the Mortis gods or the origin, of the Force. But, ultimately we know Baylan has a mission that he's on. And so it could be one of those partnerships of convenience until such time as he gets what he wants, and then he turns on her. So, so it'll be interesting. I think it's an interesting wrinkle in it. And, again, I watched the show. I remember her doing that, but I never, I didn't think through it as a special power that could be applied in other cases. So it's very interesting.
Well, I mean, as it turns out, we've seen it before. So,
sure.
And you kind of get just used to the idea of like, oh yeah, space magic, and that covers a very wide swath of things.
Yes. Yep.
Which is, the brilliant part about the Force as a story mechanism and a storytelling mechanism.
Indeed. Well, we were going to do with, Jimmy Dice is somewhat infamous on the Scruffy Looking Podcasters of providing a culinary review of sorts at times in his exploits and travels. We were going to maybe put him on the spot and see if he had anything of interest to share. But
Uncle
we know
Todd, he would have. I mean, he would have had some great. We know he would have.
Oh, of course. But Uncle Todd had a bit of an adventure today himself. I had a little bit of an adventure over Easter with the lunch that I had. So I don't know, sir, you want to share on how your Lasagna 101 went? Your Epicurious Lasagna 101, how that went?
It went well. I'm always up for learning, new things and trying out. I'm a big believer in. The phrase that Robert Rodriguez has used several times: you got to eat your whole life. You might as well eat well. So I'm always interested in cooking. No, I don't always fancy myself up, but when I get locked in on something, I kind of want to learn and do it better. And I'm very into the idea of trying to cook a lot more at home. Because just through circumstance, there's been a lot of ordering out over like the last few months. However, came across this recipe, and it's really nice because it starts off with a sauce. Like, so you make your sauce from scratch.
Nice.
Build your sauce up, and then you make your lasagna. And I've made my own sauce a couple of times, but it was a real basic, quick sauce. And other than that, I've been a jar sauce kind of guy my whole life. Whatever. The good folks at Prego have taken care of me this many years. And
the good old Chef Boyardee.
Oh my God, dude, SpaghettiOs with the hot dogs.
Oh,
that was a culinary delight back in high school. No, college actually. I was a SpaghettiOs and meatballs kind of guy before that. That was before I saw the light. But anyways, so made this sauce from scratch, turned out really well. Very happy with it. It's a process, it takes time, but it was well worth it. And the way I kind of explained it, when we were having dinner to my daughter, I was like, the nice thing about cooking is you're doing something good for yourself. You're making something that you're going to enjoy eating. And then you also end up with the satisfaction of the fact that you prepared it. So there's, it's just a nice overall experience. And it turned out really well. There's a few things I might kind of change up next time, but overall went very well. It was a very nice, rich sauce. It was not it was not overly acidic, which was nice. But yeah, no, it turned out well. Very nice. Happy, very pleased. And oh my gosh, it was so dense.
How'd the cheese cook? That's always a
key part. That was one of the things that I don't know I'm not really sure what I did wrong there, because the cheese crisped up a little bit around the edges, but it really didn't crisp in the middle. So it was like after you get all done, you foil it loosely for a half hour at 350. Then you take the foil off. Then you bake for another 30 minutes. Then you're supposed to let it rest for 30 minutes. I actually think I could have let it rest for another 10 or 15 minutes, because that's when everything kind of solidifies. And when you cut into your lasagna, you don't wind up with this mound of mush. This did all right, but another 10, 15 minutes might have been better. It was not cold by any means.
Yeah.
So
nice.
But no, overall, 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. Very nice. Very nice.
And yourself, sir. You, I'm guessing deviled eggs was involved.
You are correct, sir. Easter, we did a lunch with our sons. We're in kind of an interesting spot because, with Easter, certainly want to get together with family and make the home cooked meal. But with, two kids in college and having to get them back to college, basically Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, so that they can then attend class on Monday, makes that a little challenging to both host and to make the run into downtown Chicago, because anyone who lives in the area will tell you getting in and out of Chicago on the weekend is so fun.
Can't you just lend him your scooter?
Well, I could, but it would take a few charge. You get so far, you got to charge it back up, go a little bit further. But no, we went to our favorite restaurant around here called Adele's, and we had ourselves a bit of an Easter feast. Started it off with a little deviled eggs with crab louis and cucumber stuffing. What's that?
Only the best for the Chicago Greek Godfather.
Santino.
My boy. Look what they did to my boy.
Be a man. Smack. That is the best, Johnny Fontaine.
I like how when you did that, like you managed to like elongate your jowls. It was a full body transformation. That was nice.
You gotta do the full thing. Santino. Johnny Fontaine. Be a man. Smack. That Johnny Fontaine, that sniveling Johnny Fontaine. He deserved a smack across the face. Come on now.
Yeah.
But which, by the way, I read that was supposed to be a bit of a take on Old Blue Eyes, I believe. So, Mr. Sinatra. Hey. All right. Well, we started off with some deviled eggs, and also some.
No. What were the deviled eggs? Because you elaborate. Because
I said it, but I think we were talking over each other.
Okay.
So the deviled eggs stuffing was crab louis and cucumber. So it was a crab salad sort of stuffing that went in there, and it was phenomenal. We also ordered up some warm bread loaf with some honey butter and some fried calamari. So it was a little bit of the feast before the feast. And then I won't go through what the whole family had, but for me, I had braised lamb shanks.
They all had like side salads. You're all on a budget. $10.
You all choose from the side dish menu. I choose from the entrees. But we had, I had braised lamb shanks, which had a creamy polenta, roasted carrots, and a mint chimichurri. The shanks themselves, my friend, let me tell you, I mean, meat just falling off the bone. Fell off the bone.
That was the first thing I said about you when I met you. I'm like, this is a shanks sort of guy right here.
Indeed.
It's a man who appreciates his shanks.
Had a couple of Penelope Architects wash it all down. I did a side of roasted Brussels sprouts with which had bacon and a balsamic glaze, which was once again chef's kiss.
Brussels sprouts have come a long way since back when we were kids, and you got those things, and they were either mushy or they were barely cooked. Now, like Brussels sprouts done come up.
To quote the great Steve Austin, "Oh hell yeah!" Oh
I love me some Brussels sprouts now.
Oh my god,
I hated those as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and then for dessert, I had a wild berry bread pudding with whipped cream. It was phenomenal. So
carb free?
Absolutely not. that was my cheat for the day. Was
playing a little fast and loose now that you've had that ablation, ain't you?
I am. But no, wonderful meal with the family, and My God, I had nothing to eat that night. I was done for the day after that meal. It was about 3 courses in one, and or 3 meals in one, I should say. And holy moly! But just phenomenal, just phenomenal job by the good folks at Adele's in our area. So, with that being said, sir, that, my friends, is our Star Wars and culinary week in Geek.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, very much for leading us through that epic week in Geek.
Epic, if you will.
I definitely contributed to that. Now on to our final fours. I did look at Jimmy Dice's bracket. He has filled out nothing.
Oh, I know. I was telling you. I'm like, I think he's just going to show up and just kind of boom, 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 like just rattle it off, baby.
Which, if anyone could, it's him. I mean, I can't fault him for that.
He would probably smooth talk his way through all the rounds, and just eventually get to the winner. Just stream of consciousness.
Sure, yeah. Smelt, felt, and dealt. However, we do have our final fours. So, do you want to run down who has made the man they call Tim's final four?
Finally, we are talking about, my friends, in my final four. And so what I did, just to set the stage for this. So yes, we each have 4 names remaining. I plugged it into our randomizer spreadsheet and randomized the pairings. And so this is how it came out for me. I had so first, the names I had were Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Mandalorian, Jyn Erso, and Luke Skywalker. Those are my final 4. The pairings that came out from the randomizer was Luke Skywalker will face off against Jyn Erso. And you okay over there? It's like, hey!
That little bourbon train go down the wrong way.
And then in the other bracket,
fancy tonsil work to kick it back out.
I guess so. And then in the other bracket, I have the Mandalorian against Grand Admiral Thrawn. Which is ironic, since the good Grand Admiral's name was first spoken on that show. So,
yes.
Who are you having in your final 4? Like, what were your 4 names, and where did you land on your pairings?
Well, so I believe out of Region 1, I had Darth Vader make it out of that. Out of Region 2, the sequel trilogy and solo movies, Recluse Luke made it out.
I love that name.
Old man Luke Skywalker. Old man Skywalker.
Chicago boy.
Get off my lawn. Out of the streaming animated region was Grand Admiral Thrawn. And then out of the live action streaming universe was Bo-Katan.
Ah, very nice.
And I wound up with a face heel matchup, which, I mean, who booked this thing? Because this is not going to draw money. This will
not draw me money.
We're going to have trouble here.
Yeah. I have 3 faces.
There's going to be a double turn somewhere along the line. So I've got Recluse Luke up against Bo-Katan, Darth Vader against Thrawn.
Oh, that hurts. Oh.
There's choices to be made here, sir.
Oh, there are choices to be made. This is going to be rough. Now, I have not filled mine out yet, so I'm going to be doing this in real time, which means you may as well plan in about 5 minutes.
Do it live.
That's
right.
Do it live. We'll do it live, Bill. All right. So do you want me to start with my first?
Yes, I'd like you to meander through whatever your thoughts are here.
All right. Well, as I torture myself mentally on this one, first pairing is a face versus face matchup. Ironically, from Region 1 and Region 2, Luke Skywalker from Region 1, the original
Luke Skywalker.
OG Luke Skywalker. And then Jyn Erso from Region 2, which was what again? Sorry.
That's the sequel trilogies plus Rogue One.
There we go. Sequel
and kind of solo, but not really.
So this is a tough one because as we talked about Jyn Erso, nice, very well done, strong, female heroine. Luke Skywalker, of course, the OG hero of this entire franchise.
Well, and a very like a conflicted female, like a conflicted hero, one.
Yes.
And a conflicted, female lead, which is again not been Star Wars' strong suit until recently. Mm-hmm. So very interesting, matchup there for sure.
Agreed. So when I reflect on this matchup and think about who to advance, you consider many things. You consider the impact of the character. You consider The
I just picture you with like a blackboard.
I do. I
Like
need to
one of
have a
those old
whiteboard behind me.
But like not just a one blackboard, like in an old lecture hall where there's like 3 blackboards and then you can pull them up and there's another blackboard behind it.
Yes.
And you
'cause
need a
gotta do the
ladder to get to the
calculus.
top.
You got to
Yeah.
do you got to do the Goodwill Hunting calculus, baby. But as I consider the impact,
I'll tell you what, while you're doing this, I'm going to go have a pee. All right.
Okay,
you just
go for
finish
it.
up. Yeah.
All right, I will.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
20 minutes later.
And furthermore,
heretofore and your suspect.
Retainer.
And no ballyhoo. But no, when considering both characters, what brought Jyn Erso to the final 4 was the strength of character, the strong story of Rogue One, the way that they really, and this is really the genesis of the idea that the rebellion may not have been as pure as we had been conditioned or led to believe from the original trilogy, and I don't like saying it that way because the original trilogy was what it was. It was storytelling for its time.
Yeah.
It was meant to be the hero's journey, and you had very clear lines of good and evil. As we do Rogue One, it's filmed or created at a time when, as a movie audience and as a lot of fans of the franchise being adults, the nuances of the world bring in less clarity on good and evil. You have Cassian Andor, who is conflicted on, basically taking out her father, and basically is a rebel who has killed a guy, an innocent person, to simply protect the rebellion and to save himself. And so you start to see that as much as the rebellion was on the side of good and trying to bring the empire to an end to free people, there were there were corners that were cut, there were shortcuts that were taken, there were compromises that had to be made.
There were eggs that were broken to make the omelet that was the rebellion.
And Jyn Erso, she was part of that movement, and she herself had her own kind of journey that she was going on. Luke is OG Luke is the hero of the hero's journey. He is the young boy with big dreams who wants to go and take on his kind of his burden, if you will, or take on this adventure that he wants to go on and experience life outside of what he's known all this time. He represents for a lot of us where we are in our early 20s, big dreams, want to go see the world, want to go understand and make great things of ourselves and have success and reach for the stars. And so
and look where we wound up.
Well, of course. But in this pairing,
wait, I started thinking about my pairing. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Well, no, I meant like where we ended up. I'm thinking of Recluse. Never mind.
Understood. Sorry.
Smelt, felt, and dealt?
Indeed.
Okay. Yeah,
felt and dealt.
Sure.
And smelt. But I think I'm going to have to go
I shouldn't say anything more about smelt after my 20 minutes of talking about the smells in the theater earlier.
You have spent a lot of time on odors, on body odors, on people's hygiene, on their diet. Apparently we're going to reverse steel cage this bad boy and lock people in.
When's the last time you washed that robe?
Oh, gosh. Bring a change of clothes, for crying out loud. At least once episode 3 is done, change a new pair of jeans, for crying out loud. Good Lord Almighty. All right.
Oh no, there's a lot of sweats going on. Let's be honest.
Well, one does appreciate the sweats.
Chancho, get me to the sweats.
The sweats. All right. Well,
anyways,
this guy doesn't wear sweats, so I'm going to advance Luke Skywalker in this one. The OG moves forward into the finals for me.
Saw that a mile away. Right?
How about your first bracket, sir?
So I've got old man Luke up against Bo-Katan.
Wow, Luke against another lady.
Yeah. And, this one is difficult because I really feel in many ways old man Luke, Recluse Luke, is very emblematic of where we are at right now in terms of the Star Wars universe sort of thing. Like there's still that fantastical element. There's still space opera and all that. but there is an element of like, let's make it a little more realistic. Like let's see how people would actually behave, and there is that element in Luke, and that's what I really appreciate, because I don't think without him being who he was in The Last Jedi that we get to a point where we have some of these other characters doing the things they do. That being said, Bo-Katan really is, because we hadn't seen The Mandalorian yet, is like one of the first readily identifiable Mandalorians that we've seen besides Boba Fett.
Okay.
And really became emblematic of, who the Mandalorians were and the struggle they've gone through and all of that, and where they're heading too. Even in The Mandalorian, Bo-Katan figures pretty large once you get out of the A-team, Western, I'm going to go solve a problem of the week sort of thing, starting to kind of almost steer Din Djarin into this lane of like, there is bigger things. And so that gravity that character has counts for something. So yeah, in another really super obvious one, Bo-Katan advances.
Really, all he had to say was Katie Sackhoff, and we could have saved ourselves about 3 minutes.
I'd really love to retort, but I mean, that is part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and no shame. I think Mark Hamill I think Mark Hamill should be given even more credit for his performance in The Last Jedi, knowing how much he disagreed with the choice of where that character was going.
Yeah.
And fair. The fact that he was able to go in and say, I completely disagree with this, but you're the boss, and then acted his ass off.
Yeah.
Like that was not a mail it in performance. Like, make sure I'm paid in cash. I want to be able to not write this off, But I still think if you're going to, and this kind of falls to like some of the matchups, like you see some of the characters advance where you're like, that doesn't make sense. But it was just the way the matchups went where you're like, well, this is who got there. But yeah, I mean, I got to back Katie Sackhoff.
All right.
I have to. Otherwise, I get kicked out of the fan club.
So Bo-Katan survives, makes it to the final, is part of the cream of the crop in the finals.
This is the way.
All right. My second bracket, my final bracket of the final four is the Mando, the Mandalorian versus...
They all hate you, Mando.
They all do hate you. Versus the Grand Admiral, and I have to say here, Mandalorian is representative winner from the live stream, from the live action bracket,
and a worthy pick too.
Grand Admiral Thrawn from the animated bracket. So when one considers impact, when one considers.
When you say when one considers, I know I have time to lean back and take a nap.
I was going to say, let's see, we're at the 58-minute mark. You can come back in about $1:10, all right?
Wake me up at 1:10, yeah.
Jeez Louise, good Lord. Well, anyways, the Mandalorian, when one considers his impact, I think Uncle Todd really fell asleep. But looking at the two characters, and again, the irony being the first, actual inclusion mention of the Grand Admiral being in the Mandalorian show, was not lost on me. That irony was not lost on me. But when I consider these two, as good as the Grand Admiral was in the animated series, I have to go with the Mandalorian on this one, being basically, and we talked about this when we did the live action bracket. The one thing that kind of goes with that character is the fact that without that character resonating and without that character's story, I don't know that we get a lot of the other stories that lead to characters like Bo-Katan, that lead to characters or live action versions of Bo-Katan, live action versions of Ahsoka, or of Grand Admiral Thrawn. So considering all of that, I have decided to advance as much as I am in the bag for the Grand Admiral. And quite honestly, if we're talking about the books, the Grand Admiral might be the one who wins the day. But as good as the animated version was, I have to go with the Mandalorian in my finals bracket against Luke Skywalker. All right, you back now?
I felt a disturbance in the Force.
Yeah, I bet you did.
It was as if 1,000 dad bods all cried out at once.
You sure it wasn't just the odor you just released from your...
I did eat a lot of sauce. There was a lot of sausage in that sauce.
Oh, that's going to be a rough... That's going to be a rough night.
Honey, let's turn on the fan.
Where's the Glade?
Not so much that it's going to help. It's just going to circulate so you can enjoy this as well. You know how Apple has spatial audio now? This is spatial smell. That's what that is.
We're going to percolate. We're going to circulate. And then we're going to ventilate.
There you go. All right. So Grand Admiral Thrawn doing the job in your bracket. I mean, that's rough. That is rough.
It would have been
that's on par with Bret Hart doing the job to Steve Austin, quite honestly.
And again, I go back to the fact that if it was a situation where in the animated series, Grand Admiral Thrawn was like kind of a gateway for more content or for more stories, I mean, that's what I liken it to. I think and maybe I'm putting too much weight on this with Mandalorian, because I know as a character, as we progressed into 2 and then into season 3, there's a bit more focus on Bo-Katan and other characters, but I just feel like without him as that gateway, and Grogu, I mean, let's not forget about Grogu, right?
Of course,
it's the pairing of the two of them.
Almost should have been a package deal. Almost, the more I think about it, we really should have had like R2 and C-3PO as a package deal.
Yeah,
and Grogu and Mando should have been a package deal, because you don't have one without the other. And I totally get what you're saying, because thinking back more and more, I mean, Mandalorian was the first streaming show that I really feel like went beyond, or anything in the Star Wars universe that went beyond someone named Skywalker. Now, of course, he eventually showed up, of course, because
you got to go to that well one too many times.
Of course, they did it really fracking well. The first time.
Yeah.
But anyways, not picking nits. But this was really the point when I think the majority of Star Wars fans embraced the idea, really embraced the idea of going beyond that. Because a lot of folks had said that, and then we're like, meh, I don't know. I think this was the first time that everyone was on board, like, whoa, this could be really cool.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen unless that Mandalorian character works
right
in that first season. And oh my gosh, did that work like a mofo? That gunslinger, Clint Eastwood, man with no name, like however you want to describe it, it worked so well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you have to give that extra weight. I don't think that you gave that. And if anything, I think you might have in a way tried to take a little off. Like, I think you could have gone more over on that, honestly, because it that had a huge effect on in the same way of like Bo-Katan, like my point being like how important that character was in terms of like seeing Mandalorians and opening up this and her steering Mandalorian throughout that show. That character has a huge amount of weight in terms of where we're heading now in terms of getting Star Wars content and what's happening, because that character worked. So now, hey, cool, we can go other directions.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is huge. And you brought up a really good point just now that without that show, we don't get probably one of the I mean, the impact of that show cannot be understated. I mean, season 2's finale with the arrival of Luke Skywalker was and actually, before I go there, prior to that, during the invasion of that ship that the ragtag group kind of does, we have, you know, a spotlight firmly shined on the 4 or 5 horsewomen of the Mandalorian, you know, going to town on the stormtroopers or on, you know, I don't remember if it's the Death Troopers yet or not that they attack, but
No, I don't think they.
I don't think it was the Death Troopers. The Death
You mean the
Troopers
Dark
were,
Troopers?
or the Dark Troopers, sorry.
Yeah.
They came later on, I think, when they had holed up into that cockpit area,
Yes.
or the bridge. But shining a light on that, which again goes to the fact of what other Star Wars property has elevated or created so many unique characters outside of the original trilogy. You know what I mean? Like when you think of Mando season 1, you got Queel, you've got Grief Karga,
IG-11.
you got IG-11, you've got what was
Cara Dune,
Giancarlo Esposito's
Grand Moff,
Gideon. I mean, everything was on
Moff Gideon.
Sorry, everything was on point with these characters, and you know, Queel's death, like we talked about, was very, you know, I mean, that hits you in the gut. You know what I mean? Like that is not something that,
and he's a throwaway, not throwaway character, but he's he's not even I don't even know if you call him a secondary character,
right? Yep.
I mean, he's
unique.
Like a third tier character, and it hits you.
It does.
And IG-11's a fracking droid.
Yep.
And his sacrifice is like, again, it's gut wrenching, like you said.
Yep.
It was so meaningful.
And then you have Mando, who shows up in Book of Boba Fett, and has, you know, some story elements there. I mean, he's
Mando
just
season 2.5,
basically, yeah. So I mean, but again, without the Mandalorian, do we get Boba Fett and his and that story of what happened to him after the Sarlacc pit? I mean, and then finally the finale piece I'm talking about, where we get, you know, the X-wing that flies in, and then we see the green lightsaber snap on, and we're like, holy crap, we're actually going to get, for the first time in 30 some odd years, some original Luke Skywalker content of him at prime Luke. I mean, if we're going to call him Recluse Luke for the post-squeal, this is prime Luke. This is layeth the smacketh down on all your candy asses.
And I mean, not to put a shine on that too much, but like I distinctly remember watching that for the first time.
Yeah.
And my posture, and I was like, that expression, on the edge of my seat. I was on the edge of my seat. I was leaning forward and just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who had grown up with all this, and watching with my daughter, who, like, we're both just geeking out at this to such a degree.
Yeah.
It's like burned into my memory. Again, that doesn't you don't get to that season 2 finale without season 1 working.
Yep. 100%.
A lot of weight on the Mandalorian, a lot of weight on Bo-Katan as well.
Mm-hmm.
A character that's been, you know, developed. So 2 worthy, you know,